Hi, and welcome to our 2 acre world. Today we're going to be building a milk caddy for our raw milk jugs, so they'll be a little bit easier to carry. We're also going to be using pallet wood for this project, same pallet that we used for the screen door previously. You can check that video out. I'll put a link for it down at the end. This time we're going to be using the 1/2 inch material. On the screen door we used the 1 inch material that was on this side. This time we'll use the 1/2 inch material on this side. Let's get building. So as you've seen in other videos, I'll typically just take my Sawzall with a 6 or 8 inch bimetal blade and cut through the nails. Now I will only do this if I do not plan on running the wood underneath through a saw, because those nails are going to be cut off, and in there you're not going to be able to get them back out. You can still use the wood for rustic projects, but you can't run them through like a table saw or anything like that, or you're going to risk injury. But this is without question the quickest, most efficient way to take a pallet apart. So I'm going to be cutting off some of the rough ends here. There's a big split in this one. I'm going to cut that off first. Then I'm going to start cutting the side pieces to length and the bottom to length. And also the end pieces will come from these cuts. So I'll have several of these cuts, and I'll rip them down to size as needed. I did have to discard some of this because when pallets sit around for any length of time, they do get cupped and are not very usable. I'm going to go ahead and rip these down to the width of the project, which is 5 3/4. And then I'm going to work on the ends first. I'm going to use a canister I had to make my arch. And that line is 5 inches up from the bottom. Take the jigsaw, cut out the first arch. And then use that one as a template for the second arch. These will be the end pieces. And I'm just making sure that the height of the sides is going to be correct to match up with the end pieces correctly. I'm going to give all these pieces a good sand. I'm using 80 grit first, and then I switch to 120. Blow off the dust and get ready for paint. So I'm going to spray first with black spray paint. This is the cheapest paint that you can get. I think it was $2 a can at Home Depot. So I'm going to use black on the bottom. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to paint both sides of this, but it's really all about the inside right now, because I'm going to go over this with white and then I'm going to sand that. That's going to give me an antique look, but it would be difficult to manage on the inside of the box. After the black paint dries, which takes a couple of hours, you just don't want it to be tacky, dry to the touch. Then I'm going to spray it with the white. This white does take probably 2 or 3 times as long to dry. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it that rustic look by just hitting it with the sander. I'm getting ready for the glue up, and I realized that I did not mask off the ends that are going to be glued, and I don't want to glue paint to paint surfaces. I want wood to wood surfaces for strength. There's going to be a lot of weight in this little box. So I did have to go back and sand off the paint on the edges. Add a dab of glue. I got that from Viking Woodworker. And I had to move it over to a little flatter surface for the assembly. I'm going to start with the 2 end pieces. I'm going to have a clamp to hold the end pieces in place while I brad nail them. These are 1 inch 18 gauge brad nails. So you can see how these pieces are going to be on the inside is going to be finished, so we won't have to worry about trying to paint and sand on the inside. And then I'll take the clamps off temporarily. I'm using Titebond 3 Ultimate Wood Glue. It's good for indoor and outdoor. I use Gorilla Glue sometimes as well. I'll put a link for those down below. Now we'll go ahead and assemble the sides. So initially I'm just going to line up the bottom edges, get those right where I want them, and put one brad nail in to hold it in place. Then I can pivot the end pieces as needed to line up with the edges. And I'll line up the edges of my sides with the edges of my end pieces. Then I'm going to brad nail the heck out of this thing. It will be carrying a lot of weight for a small package, so I need it to be strong. So after I put in a whole lot of brad nails, I'm going to be reclamping this to make sure that I got a very good connection. And I did a little cleanup of the glue on the inside from the squeeze out. And I'm going to leave that there for a couple of hours. And one little shot of lubricant into my air tools is a good maintenance tip. Once this is set for a couple of hours, I'll go ahead and remove the clamps. Knowing I've got good connections, and then we're going to hit the outside now with all the black paint. I did not realize that my air compressor was not plugged in, and I was utilizing the air that was in there. And just like the inside, we're going to spray all this with black paint. While that exterior is drying, I'm going to go ahead and start working on my handle. I did not feel that the 1/2 inch width of that material was going to be strong enough for the weight of the 2 milk jars full of milk. So I did go to another pallet and grab a 1 inch piece off of it. Then I marked where my handle hole was going to go. Took a hole saw of the appropriate size and drilled holes on either end. Then I'm going to draw a straight line in between the holes. And then we'll take the jigsaw and cut the space out for a handle. I've got my arch drawn for the top. We'll cut that out with the jigsaw. And then I took a look at it and realized it was not exactly where I wanted it to be. The arch was a little off center, so I took another container and redrew it and recut it. That's better. Now we'll sand this with the 80 and then the 120 as well. Making sure I have no sharp edges. And the interior of the handle is very important. That's where hands will be going into. That needs to be nice and smooth. So I decided to clean that up by hand. And there's our handle. Get the dust off of there and get it ready for paint. And we'll hit it with the black paint just like the other pieces. And again, after the black dries, we'll go ahead and hit it with the white. And we'll put the white paint onto the box itself on the exterior now. And then we're going to sand the entire exterior to get that antique look. So you're basically just trying to make this, or any project, look like it was white originally, and it's weathered and aged and very rustic now. And this is the simplest way to do that. And go ahead and rough up the handle. Blow all the dust off and get ready to glue the handle on. So after gluing the inside edges and the bottom, went ahead and nailed that up with the brad nailer. And there's plenty of nails here as well, because this will be supporting a lot of weight. Get the glue squeeze out, cleaned up. And there we go. All finished. And here it is in use. Thank you for watching us here at Our 2 Acre World. I hope you enjoyed the build. Remember to build, grow, preserve, and live. And if you like this video, check these out next. I'm sure you'll like them.
Our 2 acre world gives us a simple life.